Well, hello and welcome to episode 91 of Drink the Movies. I'm Brian here, as always, with Michaela. Michaela, we have been out. We have seen a lot of movies recently. The last couple of weeks, we've been out to the movie theater, but we are going back to one of my favorites and an all-time classic this week. But what else have you been getting up to? There's a lot going on in the world. You brought us back a fancy cocktail from the high altitude of Colorado in the lobby bar earlier this week. But what else has been going on?
Well, I'm behind you on a bunch of things. So I just finished Under the Banner of Heaven series. I'm
Mm.
almost completely through with Severance. And I gotta say, you were correct. Both of them are chilling and terrifying in
Mm-hmm.
their own ways. The symbolism in Severance is, I cannot express how every scene almost has this layered symbolism, which is really special.
Which
And
is really
also
unsettling.
it's
Really unsettling.
really totally like, what am I doing with my life? Very, very much so. But I have started the final season. I think it's the final season of Animal Kingdom, which
Oh, okay.
was on TNT for a long time. I'm not sure who's where it sits now, because of course I think this is the final season, and I don't know how long it's been out, but I loved the original couple of seasons of Animal Kingdom. It starred Ellen Barkin and a bunch of other folks, and so I'm really excited to see its conclusion.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're into that, it's out now, everyone. It took like 3 years for the last season to come out, I think, because of COVID and stuff. So that's been
Oh, okay.
exciting. What about
Yeah.
you? Have you seen anything great?
Yeah, well, other than, catching up and, getting way ahead of you on those TV shows, I've not been doing too much. We've just been kind of kicking along, enjoying the last days of summer, but there is a new release coming out to everyone's TV screens. HBO haven't had a chance to watch the premiere. It was just last night as of recording, but that is Game of Thrones, House of Dragon came out. All of the reviews I've seen about it have been pretty positive, which is really good considering the last reviews for the last Game of Thrones thing we got were overwhelmingly negative, incorrectly, in my opinion, but that's how it was. But very excited about House of Dragon. Looks great. Very interested in kind of this story and getting back into the world of Westeros. That sounds good.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Now, we obviously haven't seen it yet either, because I think it's doing this thing, and I wish it wouldn't. HBO, if you're listening to us, do something else, because they end up like making it go live at like 9 p.m. Eastern or
Mm-hmm.
9 p.m. Central time.
And
So
that
for
is
us,
bedtime. That is
it's bed
bedtime.
exactly for us people that are over the age of 23. We go to bed at a normal time now, and the normal time is getting earlier and earlier. So bear that in mind, folks. I mean, we're the ones who actually spent the 10 years watching the whole first series. You should do what we want and have this thing like be streamable at noon. You know what I mean? Do
That's
that.
right. Put it on noon. I mean, it's fine for our West Coast listeners because it's coming on there at like 6 p.m. So that's better. Let's do 6 p.m. on the East Coast. That way we can watch it. We won't have to wait until Monday nights to watch it. So yeah, very excited about that. And yeah, we're gonna have to get into the TV series. We've got that. We've got Lord of the Rings coming. We've got the Cassian Andor series on Star Wars. How are they going to have all these series coming out right at the same time? All of the Oscar movies are going to start coming out. Michaela, we are going to lose our minds trying to get through the rest of this year. But you know what's not going to make us lose our mind is having a good drink and talking about a great film. So why don't we take a quick break and we will be right back to whip up this week's cocktail, inspired by a very spooky villain from Hollywood history.
So this week's cocktail, I have to apologize publicly to
Yeah.
Brian.
Yes.
This word, for anybody who doesn't already know, we are covering one of Brian's favorite movies of all time today.
Hmm.
We're
Hmm.
covering Terminator 2, Judgment Day.
Yes.
Really amazing film. We're going to get really into it a little bit later, and it's going to be amazing. However, what is not amazing is Brian's eternal hatred for coconut. And so, of course, I scoured the internet and I was looking for a really cool drink to
Mm.
make.
Hmm.
And the one that I found is amazing. It looks amazing. It's from Dan Vargas YouTube. It has a page for cocktails, and it's called Liquid Metal, and it looks really
Hmm.
cool. But it is basically 100% coconut or a derivative thereof. And I am so sorry, Brian.
It is a lot of coconut. Yeah, if you know anything about me and my cocktail proclivities, is that A, I don't really like to do shots, and B, I don't really like coconut flavored things. So we're having a coconut flavored shot today, but it does look really great. So we're going to take this in the direction of, we're going with technique over taste here on this one, because
Right.
it does look awesome. It looks exactly like our T1000 advanced prototype mimetic polyalloy, aka liquid metal, and that is what we were whipping up and putting into the glass. So this comes together pretty simple. If you happen to be a fan of coconut oil and you already have that on hand, you can probably get most of the way there. But you are going to need some special silver metallic food color. Now, if you went on the ride to talk about Thor, Love and Thunder, you might already have silver metallic food coloring because Michaela did for making that drink, and that's what we need to get this one looking all sparkly and delicious looking.
That's right. That's right. So you, the food color can come in a variety of mediums.
Mhm.
So I've seen it as a liquid that you can put droplets in, or like mine was like a glittery sort of powder substance. So what we used, because we weren't together when
Mhm.
we both made these drinks, Brian actually made this on his own
I refused to go see Michaela while I was having this drink is
yeah,
what happened, really, I think.
he's so mad. He's so mad at me. So, you can do either one because Brian actually was able to find the liquid. I was able to
Mhm.
find the powder. And either way, it's going to come out and it's going to look really cool.
Yep.
This is how you are going to do it. You are going to take 1.5 ounces of a coconut rum. Doesn't matter the brand because it's coconut rum. Then you're going to add 1/2 ounce of regular rum. I used Bacardi because that's what I've had in my credenza for 15 years.
And the rum credenza, yeah.
Yeah. Wilbur, where are you to drink all my rum? Anyway, then you're going to add 0.75 ounce of simple syrup. For anybody who's new to the podcast, welcome. Simple syrup is really simple, and it is just a mixture, equal parts water and sugar. And you can either microwave it or heat it in over a burning flame. And
Hmm.
as soon as it melts, the sugar melts into the water, it's ready to go. So 0.75 ounce of simple syrup. And then you're going to use a full teaspoon of coconut oil. Now, if you've never used coconut oil before, it looks like a very thick butter almost.
It looks
It's
like
not an
Crisco.
oil.
It
Yeah,
looks like Crisco
like
is
a
what it looks like.
lard. It has a lard look to it, but it doesn't.
Do they even still have Crisco?
They do.
Okay.
Absolutely. They
I know
absolutely
I
do.
know like my grandmother had like a giant can of Crisco, but like it's not something that you still use. Like I don't think I've ever used Crisco myself, but
Oh, I use it all the time.
I digress. I
Perhaps
digress.
that.
That's
Anyways,
what
so yeah, not Crisco, coconut oil. Although it probably would taste really gross with Crisco. Not that it tastes much better to you with coconut oil, but anyway. So you're
potentially.
gonna use a tablespoon of coconut oil. You're gonna put all of this in a shaker. It sounds kind of strange. You're going to add some ice to it and you're going to shake it like for 30 seconds. Do not fudge this part. You really need to shake it and give it a really good shake because that coconut oil has got to break up and kind of emulsify with the rest of the liquor. Now,
Hmm.
what you can do before or after you shake it for 30 seconds is add your food coloring. Now it's silver metallic food coloring. You can either add, as we've said, you want a couple of drops if you got the liquid. You want like 1/4 teaspoon if you've got the powder. It really it's a choose your own adventure, however much you want. But
Yeah.
you got to shake it up and then you're going to double strain it into your shot glass. And then you're going to look at it and be like, it's so pretty.
That's right. You're going to look at it. You're going to say that looks amazing. That looks just like the T1000, Robert Patrick himself. But then you're going to close your eyes. You're going to drink it, and you're like, this tastes like coconut. At least that's what I did when I did mine. But it does look very cool. Very cool. Indeed. So basically, I mean, it's just a shot of coconut rum, basically. But you're putting that coconut oil in to give the food coloring something to kind of grab a hold of a little bit and kind of stray it through there, and it's pretty cool. Like Michaela said, she used a powdered one, which was more glittery. I used the liquid one, which is a little bit more kind of like shimmery, like satiny looking
Mm-hmm.
in mine. So they both looked pretty cool, and you could probably play around with that. But what I wanted to do, Michaela, is because as we've just beaten to death, I don't like coconut flavored things, coconut rum, especially. So I'm like, I wonder if you could do kind of the same thing, with other stuff, right? If you didn't want to didn't, if you don't like coconut, could you do something else? So I was like, maybe I'll try making like a little margarita shot, because that's going to be some silver tequila, that's going to be a little bit of lime juice, and that's going to be some agave syrup. And I was like, that might have enough body and stuff for the silver to kind of grab a hold of, and get the same kind of effect. So we'll
Yeah.
have a picture of that one too. It's a little creamier looking almost, I think, with the agave in there, but still pretty cool and a much more palatable shot for myself. Plus, when we go see Enrique to get all of our guns, he's going to bust out the pitcher of tequila, and that's what you really need when you're watching
That's
Terminator 2.
that's what you need when you're looking at the end of the world.
That's right.
And it's, yeah, for sure. You want to be drinking tequila, not this rum coconut concoction that looks good, but Brian didn't love. So
That's
that's
right.
fair. That is fair. We're gonna bring all the coconut haters. We're gonna bring them a variant that is probably better tasting and probably looks just as good. I will say that mine, because it was very shimmery and glittery, it was fancier looking. I
Mm,
definitely think that yours looked a lot more like the actual liquid metal kind of from the movie itself. They both look
mhm.
cool, but I definitely think that I preferred that. So
Yeah, for sure, for sure. So go over to the website. You can have a look at the way both of those came out, and let us know if you have any good ideas for little shots that we could add some silver metallic, food coloring to, and get another Terminator shot. Because who doesn't want to do that? And there's a lot of shots taking place in this week's film. So why don't we? We're gonna down the hatch with coconut rum. No more coconut rum. I'm cutting myself off from it, and then we're gonna take a quick break and be right back to talk about this week's film, Terminator 2: Judgment Day.
spoiler warning for Terminator 2 Judgment Day. If you've not yet seen this, we're going to talk all about this 1991 classic by James Cameron. So you should press pause now and you should go make yourself a shot of coconut rum flavored goodness mixed with some liquid metal, and then we can come back and chat about it.
That's right. Yeah, absolutely. And you should have seen this because, like Michaela said, it was released in 1991. It was directed by James Cameron, and it brings us back together with Arnold Schwarzenegger as the Terminator himself. Linda Hamilton is back as Sarah Connor, and it introduces us to Edward Furlong as John Connor. And also, pretty important here, the T-1000, the bad Terminator, played by Robert Patrick. Pretty awesome stuff. So, Michaela, Terminator 2. This is the follow-up, obviously, right in the name, Terminator 2, follow-up to the original Terminator, which came out in 1984. Pretty beloved now. More of a cult classic kind of a film now at this point, but it sets the stage for what we're getting in Terminator 2. James Cameron did the Terminator. It was one of his early films, and then came back as James Cameron does, and really just wanted to push the technological bounds as he was doing. Short on the heels of The Abyss, and not too long before we got into things like Titanic from James Cameron, but wanted to come back to this world and tell the story of the Terminator.
That's right. Yeah, James Cameron really does love sequels, right? He's got like 35 avatars planned.
Mm-hmm.
Now, at the time of this recording, we know that a second one is coming out in December of 2022, or at least that's when it's supposed to. Hopefully, we will not have another plague or something before then, because it's been trying to come out for 3 years now or
We'll
something.
still have this one. We'll still have this
We'll
one.
still have this plague, but maybe not another one. So he seems to love going in and doing sequels. He did Aliens. Now, he didn't do Alien, that was Ridley Scott, but he did Aliens, which was
Hmm.
hugely successful. Everybody really loved Aliens. This is his second sequel, which is Terminator 2. And so I want to talk a little bit about this, though, because so few times a sequel outdoes the first one. A lot of people, one of the reasons why Maverick is Top
Hmm.
Gun Maverick has done so well is because people are saying it's almost better than the first one.
Hmm.
But few people are saying, oh, it's absolutely better than the first one. So I think it's interesting because we're not covering the first one because this is by far a better film in a lot of respects.
That's right. Yeah, you bring up a good point. And Terminator 2 is pretty widely held as one of the, if not the best sequels of all time. People will also say the same about Empire Strikes Back as being one of the best sequels of all time. People will say The Godfather Part 2 is the best sequel of all time, and they'll say that Terminator 2 Judgment Day is the best sequel of all time. But I argue, Michaela, The Empire Strikes Back was the follow-up to Star Wars: A New Hope, which was nominated for Best Picture. Godfather Part 2 was a follow-up to Godfather, which won Best Picture. Terminator 2 was the follow-up to The Terminator. Definitely not the Best Picture. Not a terrible movie by any stretch. A really good science fiction movie, but like this is just leaps and bounds above that first film.
Right, right. Yeah. So if you hadn't seen Terminator 2 Judgment Day, because we got, I mean, this is 31 years old now, this film, right? So if you haven't seen it and you wanted to know, hey, do I need to see Terminator 1 in order to enjoy Terminator 2 Judgment Day? The answer to that, I think, is probably not. You could probably watch this in and of
Mhm.
itself. We're gonna also, probably, spoiler alert, we're gonna ruin Terminator 1. So if you've also not seen Terminator 1, sorry, press pause. I don't have a cocktail. Go do a shot of tequila because you'll need it to get through most of that movie. But come back and we can talk about it. So here's the point for Terminator 1. There was a Terminator. It looked like Arnold Schwarzenegger. Basically, it's this cyborg thing. It
Mhm. Mhm.
looks human, but it's really only skin deep. Okay, underneath the skin that actually bleeds a little bit, there's this robot, and it is a killing machine, and it has come back to 1984 because it wants to retroactively terminate the life of a child or a person that grows up to be a huge freedom fighter in this big world epic cyborg war with humans, like,
Mhm. Mhm.
now. Right. so
That's
so
that
apparently,
That's
and
that's right. That's right. Yeah, it comes back to basically kill Sarah Connor before she can give birth to John Connor, who's going to lead the resistance against the machines in the war in the year 2029. And I think that James Cameron does a really, really good job of telling you everything you need to know from the first Terminator. And there's some pretty kind of neat strategic ways that he does. So obviously you get dialogue from the Terminator, you get dialogue from Sarah Connor and kind of her story as she's in like this mental institution kind of thing. You get stuff there. You get stuff from like the police officers like showing like stock photos from the first movie that basically like lay it out. So do you have to see the first Terminator? I think you probably should, and then you can watch Terminator 2 like 10,000 times, which is how I absorbed my Terminator 2 story. But you don't really need to see it. I think he does a really good job of laying out the world and the things. And I think that's what makes this a kind of sequel so good and so powerful is it doesn't like it relies on where the story was leading up to it, but it doesn't rely on the fact that you saw this film from 7 years prior.
yeah, exactly. And there's only a couple of things that I think could make the plot a little bit smoother. One of the reasons why we actually decided to drop this episode during this week was Judgment Day is
Hmm.
August 29th, right? So it was August 29th, 1997. Spoiler alert, it didn't actually happen. We're all still here. Thank goodness for that. Because that would have been a real bad day. But that is the day that in Los Angeles, that's when the war kind of begins, and a bunch,
Hmm.
I mean, she says 3 billion people just die like in a matter of seconds. And so that this happens before that. You think it happens around 1994 and 1995, but it's a little unclear because the movie came out in 1991. So you just got to get your head kind of wrapped around that and let that go in order to enjoy it, because John has been born, and he is really young. He's supposed to be like 10 years old at this point. And he's
Hmm.
played by the amazing Edward Furlong. Could not have been a better cast member in this. This kind of trajected him through stardom, and he did some other really great films as a very young actor. But he plays John Connor. His mom is the amazing Linda Hamilton. She has reprised her role from the earlier Terminator as Sarah Connor. And she's had a really rough decade, right? As you would.
That's right. That's right. Yeah, she has had a very rough decade. So, why don't we let's get into the story here a little bit. So the film opens up. It is the year 2029. We are full blown into our war with the machines. It's really pretty epic. It actually is not very much of the movie, just a couple of minutes, but it's this huge like war set piece. It looks awesome. You have the Terminators walking around, and then we go into the most fantastic of title themes of all time. It is Brad Fiedel's Terminator theme, which comes on. You go through the cast, and then we are introduced to our characters. So we have coming back from the future, we have Arnold Schwarzenegger himself is the Terminator. He comes back when you travel through time. No clothes, no clothes required. But you do make a little like ball shaped kind of like hole thing in the ground when you come back, as you do. And he comes right back to like some truck stop, dive bar sort of thing. And what do you need if you're a Terminator and you're naked from the future? You need some boots, you need some clothes, and you need a motorcycle. So you go into the bar and you get it.
Yeah, you do. And I just got to say, I thought this was amazing. They do this in the first film too, but not nearly as well as they do it in this scene. What I love about it is they show what the Terminator is seeing, and it's all in kind of this red,
Yeah, it's like a
night vision
POV kind of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you can see everything he looks at. It immediately starts giving you information. So as he's walking up to the biker gang bar, he sees all of these bikes, all these motorcycles, and they're all telling there, all this information is popping up on the screen saying, what year it was made, how big is it, what,
Mhm.
all of these all the part numbers that made the actual machine. And then he goes into the dive bar and he's looking at every person, and the whatever his CPU in his brain is like sizing up all of these people, figuring out what they're wearing and if they're a right fit for him. And of course, there is one guy in the bar. It is his unlucky day to be the exact
Yeah.
same size as Arnold Schwarzenegger. And Arnold Schwarzenegger's character, the Terminator, the good Terminator, it says, I need your clothes, I need your keys, I want your bike. And he's like, absolutely not. And that doesn't go down well for him. He doesn't kill him, but he throws him into the kitchen. He like lands on a stove. He does the thing where, he touches the stove and he's like trying to push himself up and he burns his hands. And finally he's like, take the keys, take everything. I'm fine. Just take it
Yeah.
away.
Yeah, that's right. The guy tries to put his cigar out on Arnold Schwarzenegger's chest there. It doesn't garner any sort of response, and at that point you say, "Oh no, I'm in for a bad time." So yeah, he gets his clothes, he gets his motorcycle, and he goes out to leave. It's playing "Bad to the Bone." It's pretty awesome. Arnold Schwarzenegger looks incredible, so iconic, like in this like leather like biker sort of get up that he's wearing. A guy comes out with the little like sawed-off shotgun. He goes and takes that and his sunglasses, and he is off to go find the target, the kid he's meant to protect, John Connor. But bad news, someone else from the future is also here. That is Robert Patrick. He is playing the bad Terminator, the T-1000, made out of this new liquid metal. I don't know if any of his parts included coconut rum or not, but he's a pretty scary guy. Again, comes back from the future naked. There leaves like a hole in the ground and on the fence. Police officer having a bad day, because he stops to investigate this thing. Our T-1000 comes up, stabs him, takes his uniform, and we're getting our first inkling that this Terminator is nothing but trouble, because he can mimic people. Michaela, that seems bad. That seems bad.
Yeah, that's not a good look. I mean, it's a great look for him, because he now has unmitigated access to all of these things, right? He can look like anybody. And the most terrifying and cool thing about this T-1000 is like now his hands can become knives and like spears. Now he can't throw himself, right? He's got to maintain his integrity as a liquid metal thing. But now he like is weapons. He's just everything about him is a giant weapon to be used to kill things. Now they're both Terminators, the good and the bad, are given files on where to go find John Connor. Now John Connor is 10 years old. As we've talked about, his poor mom has had a really rough decade, right?
Right.
As you would, if you were told the secret to the world was that it was going to pretty much end in 10 years or so, you would do your best to prepare for that day. So that was a few years of what she did. But then she got in trouble with the law, telling everybody she could about, what was happening and these people from the future. That sounds like someone has serious mental issues. So of course they lock her away in an asylum, which leaves poor John to be a victim of the orphanage and kind of child protective services. So he has foster parents that don't really seem to be super enjoying being foster parents to him, or maybe to anybody else. They're real grumpy.
That.
But that's where they find him, right? He's there, he's sitting there, and he's a real smart kid. And this is where we really start to get into who John is and what he's about.
That's right. Yeah, absolutely. So, yeah, as Michaela was saying there, so John is under the foster care of Todd and Janelle. He seems like a troubled youth. He's there on his dirt bike. He is hanging out with his friend, who's the same kid that was the friend in Big. And they're off to the races. They're playing like some sweet like Guns N' Roses on this little like boombox thing as they tear off out of there on the dirt bike. He stops. He like hacks into this ATM, and his friend asks him. He says, "Hey, John, where did you learn how to do this?" And he said, "Oh, my mom taught me how to do this." And his friend's like, "Oh, your mom sounds pretty cool." And John says, "No, dude, she's a total psychopath. Because she's at the insane asylum. People there, because people are like, what are you talking about? End of the world. You're making this up. Some guy from the future came back, and you and him got together and had your son, and then he died. You're making stuff up." And we go check in with Sarah Connor, and we know because we watched the first Terminator that Sarah Connor is completely legit. But if you look at it from the standpoint of these doctors, you're like, yeah, she does sound a little bit crazy. And this is one of my favorite kind of sections of the movie, is kind of the time we're spending with Sarah Connor in this insane asylum, because Linda Hamilton is so awesome. And she just has like this like simmering like rage, like it's kind of like a volcano. You're like, she could like erupt. She could stab you in the knee with a pen, which is what she apparently did to the doctor. It's really great, and it kind of sets up the framework for, like I said, telling the story of the original Terminator, but also setting it up, that Sarah Connor is someone not to be trifled with, not to be messed with, and going to be a pretty important part in raising John to be this great military hero.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard because it's hard to see and to watch, because there's a part where she has this recurring nightmare of Judgment Day, and it is pretty awful. And the way she's only talking about it at the beginning of the film, where she's being interviewed by Dr. Silberman, played by Earl Bowen. He is in the first one as well. He thought that she was just a very weak, fragile-minded young lady who's now, really just in full-fledged, free fall from in psychosis, believing this stuff. But she's trying to talk to him and say, look, I know I have these nightmares, and I don't know why you keep asking me to tell you about it, because it's so upsetting to her. But she's also very smart, and she's realized that, she's never going to get out of there, out of this asylum, trying to tell them these things. Meanwhile, her son is wherever. She has no idea where he is or if he's being taken care of. And she knows that it's just a matter of time before someone else comes for him, or, he needs to be prepared. He just needs to, if Judgment Day happens, she needs to make sure as a mom that he is prepared for all of these unknowns, and she doesn't know what's going to happen to her. So she's terrified, and it's easy to see as a parent now why she's doing these things. But when you're younger, I remember watching this when I was much closer to 10 than I was to my age now. And I was like, God, I don't get it. But really now she's in full mama bear mode. So she's trying to play the game with the doctors and say, you're right. I don't believe these things anymore. It doesn't make sense. And they're like, well, why are you saying that now? And she brings up a really interesting point, where if she had killed this alien being, this computer, there would have been evidence, right? And there was no evidence. Nothing ever became of this, right? They have no idea what happened to this big bulky guy that shot up 35 people in this police station that happened in 1984. They have no idea. There's no evidence, right? And then of course this cuts over to these unknown people that we don't get to know who they are yet, but they're in like this really clean, beautiful, sleek like office building, and everything's very mirrored and high tech, and it looks really great. It's very 1990.
That's right. Yeah, we are making our way over to the offices of Cyberdyne Securities, and we are introduced to one scientist by the name of Miles Dyson. He is there. You don't know what they're up to. He seems like a friendly enough guy. The people that are working there seem like friendly enough people, but they open the vault door. He goes in, he pushes a little button, the wall pops open, and out comes this little tiny chip and this very scary looking hand. And you say, oh, apparently there was evidence. Sarah Connor, not telling lies. Just Cyberdyne Securities got it. And bad news is Miles Dyson and Cyberdyne are the ones that are going to basically reinvent the wheel, but that wheel is going to come to life and kill us all. So that's bad news. That is bad news.
It's not good.
But luckily,
Not
we've got a Terminator here that's on our side, and he's going to protect us. And the race is on to get to John. Our T-800, the good one, the T-1000, the bad one. They're making their way to the arcade, which looks really fun. It looks like a really fun arcade to go and intercept John. And of course, John's stuck in the middle of these two guys, doesn't know what is going on for the life of him.
That's right. Well, and he's still a kid, so at first he's like, hey, what's going on? And then he realizes they mean business. The one that looks, so it's important, the T-1000 of course looks like a cop, so of course everyone's like, listening to him. He's in this arcade, he's asking where where John is, and he's got this really nice voice. And I can't say enough about how amazing Robert Patrick was in this film, because he looks so kind. Half of the time when he's torturing people with his knife hands, he looks like he's just so diabolical. It's awesome. But he's looking for him. You've got Arnold Schwarzenegger, who's got, that he's got something in this box of roses that he has, that he's like walking around the mall with, trying to find John. Caught in the middle. Finally, it gets down to the point where John's kind of in the middle, literally, of this hallway between Arnold Schwarzenegger, Robert Patrick, the two Terminators. The T-800 says get down, and John gets down, and they start guns ablazing, and then we see liquid metal in action.
That's right. Yeah, the T-1000 takes his first shot from that shotgun. You see, kind of, I don't know, it almost looks like a mushroom kind of thing, like on his chest where it goes into him. And then you'll see bad news that metal just reforms back into Robert Patrick. So apparently you can shoot this guy, you can't kill him. That's bad. But the T-800, our good Terminator, gets John out of there. So they go. John makes his escape on his little dirt bike. Arnold is close behind on his motorcycle. And Robert Patrick is even closer behind in a semi-truck that he steals. You get this really great kind of chase scene through this kind of like a storm runoff ditch in California. I guess that's what those are supposed to be, sort of thing. And they go. It's really, really super awesome. But we get kind of the first little character bits here with John and the Terminator, and John's starting to figure this out. He's like, okay, well, I figured out that you're not here to kill me. Who's that other guy? Why is he here to kill me? And he's like, you sent me back here to protect you. And that's how I traveled through time, and that's what we're going to do. And John says, that sounds great. We should get out of town, but first, going to go get Mom. That's
right. And it's so sweet, actually, because and again, Edward Furlong, he got a lot of credit for this, but when his face just completely changes, because remember, he was telling his friend, who was, I thought, one of his really good friends, and, it looks like they were pretty tight. He's like, my mom's a total psycho. Like, none of this is real. But then, of course, when the T-800 and him are talking, he's like, oh my gosh, so everything she said, she did all of these things just to protect me and build me up and make me this great world leader and all of these things. He's like, well, we're going to go get her. And of course, Arnold Schwarzenegger's Terminator is like, absolutely not. That is a negative. We are not doing that. And he's like, no, we're going to go get her. And then we realize that because old John from the future was the leader of this Terminator, he's instructed him to listen to young John. So young John is like, I order you, we're going to go pick up my mom. And I also order you to not kill anybody. And it's really kind of funny because full well that this is going to be one of the goriest films of like 1991 ever done, right? I mean, 1984 was incredibly violent. And so of course he's like, I promise I will not kill anyone. And it's actually pretty funny. But
Yeah, that's right.
they're going to the insane asylum. They're gonna go get mom.
That's right. Yeah, they're going to go get mom. The gentleman at the gate, he's like, you can't go in there. And of course, the Terminator shoots him in the knees, and John's like, hey, I told you not to kill anyone. And he says, yeah, he'll live, which is pretty fun. But they are in there to go get Sarah Connor out of there. Now Sarah has her own ideas about getting out of there. She's kind of planned her own prison break. One of the guards totally assaults her. It's very gross and very disturbing, but she just has to kind of lay there and take it,
Oh,
because she needs to spring herself out of there.
yeah, it's my I love that this guy ends up getting it, I have to say, because he is
Oh,
gross.
he
So
he
she
gets he gets the end of a broom handle upside his dome real hard.
yeah, it's very satisfying to see that happen. She Sarah knows because she's talked to the because she's talked to Dr. Silverman. She says,
Hmm.
look, that doesn't make sense. And he's like, look, Sarah, I'm not stupid. Like I don't believe really that you've done this about face in a short 6 months. I really think that you need some more time here. I think you're just telling us what you want to hear to go see your son.
Yeah,
And
and the police came right with the pictures of Arnold Schwarzenegger because they're like, hey, remember that guy you told us all existed and we all said that you were full of crap? Here's this guy that looks remarkably like him that was just at the mall today. Do you have anything to say about that? And
yeah,
she's so
and
awesome because she just sits there, doesn't say a word, doesn't blink, doesn't move her head. She's awesome. What she does do is steal a paperclip.
that's right. And they also say your son is missing. And so she's probably like literally going bananas in her brain right now, thinking that her son is like, a cream sauce on a lawn somewhere. But she steals this little baby paperclip, and she's laying like they got her in like strapped down in this bed, and that orderly like licks the side of her face. Just and you don't know why. I remember thinking the first time I saw this that he was just really testing to see if she was super catatonic.
Hmm.
And now that I see this as an adult, I get a whole other chill because I'm like, they could do anything to her. She's completely strapped down, and who is she going to tell that's going to believe her? It's the absolute most disgusting. Oh, he's so
Yeah.
vile, and
And,
she gets him in the end. It's so
She
great.
she does. So this won the Academy Award for sound effects editing. And it could have been for any number of sound effects, but I think it's the sound effect of him licking her cheek because it sounds so gross. He's so gross. It's also gross. But yeah, she gets him in the end. So she breaks out. She's in the middle of breaking out when her son and the our good Terminator come in. Now, if you're Sarah Connor, you see the good Terminator and you instantly say, "That's the bad Terminator. He tried to kill me 7 years ago. That was bad. Didn't like the way that went down." So she stops. She freaks out. She is backing away. But John kind of comes up to her side and it's like, Mom, it's okay. It's okay. It's okay. And then Arnold reaches his hand out and that famous of line says, come with me if you want to live. So she, is going to have to take his advice on it because T-1000 is right behind you and he's walking through prison gates. Not good. That's not what you want to see. And
No,
the best part about this is that stupid doctor who didn't believe her the whole time is just standing there with like this little like needle cover thing in his mouth, and she's like, oh crap, she was telling the truth, and all of these guys are right here in this hallway, right in front of me right now. So I guess he should have gotten one in the face. He did get his arm broken, I guess. So that was kind of satisfying. But point of the story is they get Sarah Connor out of the hospital. They go and they are on their way out of town. Time to
that's
come up with a
right.
plan.
That's right. And Sarah does have a plan because Sarah has spent the last 10 years of her life when she's not been, behind asylum bars. She has been waiting for this day. And so she goes out. They head south of the city because this took place, I think, in LA. So they're heading
Mhm.
towards the border. She meets her friend in this really weird place. It looks like a junkyard, but people live there. And so I
It
don't
looks dusty. I know that.
it's very dusty, but there's like families that are there, and she has a friend slash kind of business associate in the underground. His name is, I think, Enrique.
Hmm.
And she's like, hey, dude, I'm here. I need to get all my guns. I need one of your trucks. And the guy's like, how about the fillings out of my teeth? Like, hello, how are you? And she's like, I don't have time for this. Like, I need you to do this right now. And he's like,
That
oh, okay. Like at first very like jokey, and then she is very quick to be like, no, we're here and we mean business. And then they have a look at the Terminator, who has taken a little bit of a beating, right? He's been all shot up in the back. He's got this leather jacket that fit him beautifully, but it has tons of bullet holes in it
Hmm.
now. And we see a couple of really beautiful vignettes between John and the Terminator, where they're talking about why do we continue to do this to each other? I mean, why does the human race just have to fight? They're in like getting gas at a gas station, and the two kids are playing with very real looking pistols. And that's
Hmm.
another thing. This was before play guns were like bright orange and didn't look anything like guns, so it was very off-putting when I saw this as an adult, because the play guns
Yeah.
looked like they were real. But it's this bonding is happening in a very deep, real way for John, who's never had a father,
Hmm.
and the Terminator, right? Who
Yeah,
has no feelings, really. He's not programmed to.
that's right. Yeah, and that's one of the things that Sarah says, because she's kind of observing this, right? As he's teaching the Terminator how to talk cool, and how to give high fives and all this stuff, and she's kind of watching her, and she's like, this Terminator is a machine. It's been programmed. It'll never hurt him. It'll never like stop protecting him. And that's kind of neat. And I really like kind of those little like vignettes of basically of this little boy John Connor like teaching this machine what humanity is like. That's really great. The other really great thing you get in Enrique's is Arnold pulling this giant piece of plywood off this hole in the ground. There's like 10,000 pounds of dust that rises up out of this that makes a super cool sound, but that's where all the guns are. That's where he gets like his minigun. It's very like iconic looking for him, for the Terminator to be holding this. He's like, what is this? Or how about this? And John's like, that's totally you. And it is totally him. So they load up on guns. They're getting this truck working. But bad news, Sarah Connor decides she needs to take things into her own hand. She doesn't want to wait. She doesn't want to get out of town. She doesn't want to formulate a plan. She wants to go and shoot Miles Dyson in the head.
Yeah. Well, she has a really bad dream. So she'd been talking about these recurring nightmares, and we finally get to see what she's seeing in this recurring nightmare. And I have to say, it's probably one of the most disturbing things I remember seeing when I saw
Mm.
this as a teenager.
Hmm. Hmm.
So it's basically her thinking about herself. And again, the timing's a little off, but she's thinking about herself, and she can see the version of her from 1984, which looks nothing like, I mean, it's the 80s. So she's got like this crimped hair, and she's in like a waitress outfit, and she's
Hmm.
holding a little boy who's like 2 or 3 years old. And you assume that that's John. And they're at a playground, and they have, the swing sets and the seesaws and the merry-go-round looking things. And she's watching all of these parents and kids, and she's watching as herself in, I guess, present day in 1991. The total, bad Sarah Connor is like shaking the fence, trying to say, hey, something's happening. And then she actually sees the nuclear bomb go off, I guess, in the middle of Los Angeles. And you
Hmm.
see all of this destruction, and it can be really triggering for people. I found it incredibly hard to watch as a parent now. So
Yeah.
we don't have to get into the details of it, but I will say the special effects are amazing. The way that they crafted that and made that look realistic with the modeling that they used was amazing. And I think it
Yeah.
really stands up to the test of time well.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. Because yeah, we're seeing her look at through the fence, and she's like yelling at these people to get out of there. You see the bomb go off, and as it kind of sweeps through the city, um, but it harkens back to the opening kind of title sequence as it's going through and it's playing that theme. You're just seeing all this playground equipment on fire. And watching back, I don't know if I felt the same way when I was younger watching it, but watching it now, like it's really unnerving to see just all that playground equipment on fire, but it's it's almost like hypnotic in a way. Like it's really kind of surreal feeling. And that's I guess what she would have been looking at through that fence then, in her vision. So it kind of harkens back to that. But like I said, she is off to take matters into her own hands. She says, if I go kill Miles Dyson, yeah, obviously he's not going to be alive to rework this thing and get the
Right.
Cyberdyne machines back up and running. But John and the Terminator get tipped off because they go over to where she was setting, and she had scratched into the table with the knife, no fate. And he's like, and John says, no fate, no fate, no fate, but what you make. So he's like, oh man, she's going to go kill Miles Dyson. And that is exactly where she is.
That's right. Now, Miles Dyson, you said this before, Brian. He seems like a really nice guy.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
He's played by the amazing Joe Morton. He has got a wife and a son, and he's at home. He's doing some work in his really nice house, in his really nice office. Everything
Mm-hmm,
is
mm-hmm.
glass. It's very, very fancy and swanky for 1990. It looks amazing. And his son is like, "Hey, it's time for dinner, Dad. Come in." And what you don't see is that Linda Hamilton, Sarah Connor, she has got scopes on him. We can see like that she's aimed, and he almost dies. He almost gets shot in the head.
Mm-hmm.
But his son's kind of remote control car hits him, and he ends up jerking, and so the computer that he was working on is toast. But then she breaks in, she's shooting everything up, and he's like, who are you? He's so taken aback because he has no idea who she is.
Mm-hmm.
And she gets him into the living room. He's been shot in the shoulder, and he's like, don't hurt my kids, don't hurt my wife, just take whatever you want. And she's aiming for his face, and she's like, this is all your fault. And he is so amazing because he's like, what is my fault? What is my fault? And she just can't do it. She just can't shoot him because, of course, his kid is like, don't hurt my daddy. The
Mm-hmm.
wife, who's played by the amazing S. Apatha Murkison,
Mm-hmm.
she's amazing. They're screaming. They're like, we love him. He didn't do, what do you mean? What did he do? What is his fault? And she kind of has a moment where she can't kill him, but she also can't forgive him because he's about to ruin the entire world.
That's right. Yeah, right about that. And Sarah Connor is kind of inconsolable, but luckily John and the Terminator show up to kind of talk her down from this, and are like, It's okay. We'll figure this out." And of course, Miles Dyson and his family are like have no idea what's going on. And John just says, "Show him," and he hands Terminator knife. They send the little kid out of the room, which is probably good. And then probably the grossest part of the whole movie, for me at least, is just you see Arnold Schwarzenegger just cutting like this ring around his arm, and up through like the wrist, and he just rips like the skin off of his arm, and there he is with that hand, the same one that Miles Dyson has been studying at work, and he's like, oh God, what have I done? What am I going to do? We need to work this out. And much to Miles Dyson's credit, he says, "Oh, I can't do that. But if I quit, they'll hire someone else to go do my work. They'll keep going. It doesn't matter if I'm there or not. It doesn't have to be me. It could be anyone doing this. So what we need to do, we need to go to Cyberdyne. We need to grab those things and destroy them." And I think that's going to be a pretty good idea. So they have a car full of guns. They get in to the office there. He checks them in. But bad news is that the news has figured out, or I guess the people there, the security and the police, have figured out that Arnold Schwarzenegger, Terminator, and Sarah Connor have escaped from this insane asylum. They're out. They're presumed to be heavily armed, which they are, and very violent, which they probably could be. And they're in the Cyberdyne office. So the police converge on this. The T-1000 converge on this, and they're there to basically destroy this place and destroy these items.
Yeah. Yeah. And this, I loved, I don't know if you saw, because you're a big fan of this movie, but there've been a lot of making of Terminator 2 documentaries, and
Mm-hmm.
the, the special effects studio, Industrial Light and Magic, was part of this. And you can really tell in this kind of part of the film, they really do blow up an entire floor of a building. They,
Mm-hmm.
they have this scene where Arnold Schwarzenegger is going to go out with his machine gun and like face all these cops. And they can't do that even with blanks. Not only is it dangerous, but like the blank cartridges. There were going to be so many shots fired at him that it wouldn't be safe. And so they actually made like a whole Arnold Schwarzenegger kind of bust of
Hmm.
him. And the way that they filmed that was so cool, because knowing that it's knowing the special effects behind it, you still didn't notice a difference between the real Arnold Schwarzenegger and wherever the fake one was, in
Hmm.
this particular scene where he's going down this hallway and they're shooting him and he's shooting back. And he's using this really cool shotgun grenade launcher. It is amazing. I'm glad that we don't have this on the streets, because that would be one
And
more thing to be terrified of.
it makes a
Um,
cool sound.
but it makes a cool sound. It does really well. And again, he's made a promise. He's not going to kill anybody unless he really has to. So he goes out, he shoots up all the cars, he shoots up all of the trucks and all of like the SWAT team vans, except for one. And he's like, he goes in, of course, his little T1000, or sorry, T800 Terminator visual aid inside his brain says,
Hmm.
looks and tries to find any heartbeats, and is like, nope, you have zero casualties, you have not killed anyone. And
Yeah, so no casualties, but bad news. Like I said, the T1000 or bad Terminator is there. He is on scene, and they need to get out of there. They have stolen the Cyberdyne hand, and they have stolen the chip. They're going to get out of there. Miles Dyson, unfortunately, as the SWAT team comes in, he gets shot. It's kind of one of the most like wrenching things, is because he's holding the detonator for this bomb, and you just see like his breathing getting like quicker and quicker and quicker as he's losing his life, and he drops kind of this detonator onto the switch, and the building explodes, just as our heroes have gotten out of there. And Joe Morton is so awesome as Miles Dyson, totally the unsung hero of this. I love him so much, and every once in a while he'll pop up in something I'm watching, and I'm like, hey, it's Miles Dyson from Terminator 2. Love that guy. So he's pretty great. But they are trying to get out of there. They need to go destroy these things. But bad news is they are in this slow moving little pickup truck kind of a thing. T1000, he's in like the big, like, he's in a helicopter because he jumps out and steals the helicopter from this guy. The helicopter is flying in behind. Knowing James Cameron, of course, that is like a real helicopter really flying down the street, really chasing down this little truck. It explodes. Of course, there's tons of explosions. But basically, the sum of this is they get to this big factory. It has sort of this liquid smelt, but we get probably the coolest effect. This was the one. Well, not really. There are a lot of really cool effects, but this is one of the coolest ones because they go, and one of the trucks that crashed was full of liquid nitrogen. And what does that do? That freezes T1000. That's bad. That's bad. And it looks creepy when he freezes. But Arnold, he has that cool gun you were talking about.
he sure does. And it like blows him up into a million little pieces of metal. It's very cool looking. Again, the thing about the Terminators is they don't feel any pain, and they're very binary, right? It's ones and zeros with them. So it's
Hmm.
like, we're gonna go, the T1000 keeps walking even though he doesn't even have any more feet because they've been frozen off. I mean, he's still trying to go and run after these folks until he's exploded into a bunch of different pieces. But the problem is that they're in this steel mill now. They've somehow crashed into a steel area. All the workers have left. They sound the alarm, but they were in the middle of working, and this lava overflow from one of these kind of areas where they're making steel
Yeah.
kind of comes out, and you get this really hot flow of I guess steel. I don't know what it is. Whatever that molten steel. I'm not a
Yeah.
scientist, but
Yeah,
whatever. It's real
it's like
hot
the
there.
that's right. It's like the smelting stuff. But yeah, it's warm
Yeah.
enough. It basically thaws out the T1000, and you just see him kind of liquefy, comes back together. Uh, Poof, pops out good as new, no harm done to him. So then you get kind of the knockout, drag out, and it looks real bad. Arnold gets his arm stuck in this thing. He gets his head smashed in, which is why it won for the best visual effects in the makeup department, because you'll get Arnold Schwarzenegger, and half of his head is the inside of this, this steel robot head that we saw at the beginning of the film, and it looks amazing. He like rips his arm off so he can keep going, because like you said, Michaela, they don't feel pain. His objective was to protect John Connor, and he doesn't care if he has to cut off his own arm. That is exactly what he's going to do. Sarah Connor almost gets one up on the T1000, but she runs out of bullets just in the nick of time. But luckily, Arnold has one more bullet left. He gets pulled up this conveyor belt. He shoots that little grenade thing into him. T-1000 explodes. I mean, that doesn't kill him, but the fall into the iron smelt, that does.
That certainly does. And this, what an amazing visual masterpiece this part is, right? Because not only is he like super maimed and really grotesque, and
Hmm.
it's all silver, so there's no blood, but it's still real gross. And then he falls backwards and splashes this smelt everywhere. And then he, obviously the T-1000 is trying to deflect this and somehow survive, and he can't reach out because it's a really big kind of pool. And so what does he do? I guess scientifically it makes sense. He's trying to turn into something that won't hurt, and so he turns into all of the people that he
Yeah, that he
imitated over the
impersonated. Yeah.
course.
Hmm.
And so for a little while he is a cop, for a little while he's the security guard at the insane asylum, then he is John's foster mom. Then I mean, he's a couple of other characters, and then finally, like this liquid metal just kind of becomes, more and more like just a mask, and then it ends up like dropping and kind of settling on the surface of
Hmm.
the top of the smelt, and it looks a little bit like our shot glass because of the crystallized coconut that we've got at the top, right?
That's right. Yeah, absolutely. There you go. There you go. Absolutely. So job done there. John throws the little chip and the little hand also into the smelt, so they melt. Victory, right? But bad news. Terminator 2 can't leave you alone without not making you sad, making you cry, because Arnold, the good Terminator, says there's one more chip, and he points to his head. It's too dangerous to leave him alive in case something happens to him, and and of course it's very heartbreaking because John had grown very attached to him. He was very protective of John. It was very sad. Sarah's watching this too, and it's very emotional. And it's even more emotional because Terminator says, "I can't self-destruct." So he kind of hands the controls over to Sarah Connor, who lowers him down into the smelt thing that basically does. And Arnold, he gives this little thumbs up, one of the things that John had taught him throughout the film, to show that everything was cool, everything was okay, and kind of get that one last little image. And yeah, problem solved. But it's real sad. It's sad. You don't expect to be sad in this big action adventure R-rated thing with Arnold Schwarzenegger. You expect there to be explosions and guns that make cool sounds and stuff like that, but you don't expect to be sad at the end.
Right. Yeah. And you're kind of heartbroken. And you're also filled with this inexplicable hope because the very last scene, again, we did a spoiler warning, so you can't be mad at us now. But the very, very last scene is of a highway at night, and you see it's an American highway at night, and you see the road markings of the middle of the road, which is kind of yellow. And basically there's an voiceover of Sarah Connor saying, if a Terminator can learn the value of human life, maybe we can too. And
Hmm.
it makes you think about, how small and great of a sacrifice it is because, again, he's a robot. He doesn't have emotions. For him, it was very black and white. But you also know that it did pain him because he took the time to do the thumbs up and to tell, to try and help
Hmm.
John make peace with it, because he's already traumatized enough, this poor kid. I mean, trying to
Yeah.
make sense of it and make it as good for him as possible so he can continue to live his life. And now, he can do that with the idea that, hey, maybe Judgment Day isn't going to happen. Maybe he can actually live a quote unquote normal life with 3 billion other people that don't die. So
Hmm.
it's really, really a neat end. Lots of layers on this, and I think that that's one of the reasons why it did so well, and it's still regarded as one of the best, if not the best, sequels of all time.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. This one is real well beloved. It was real advanced when it came out. So we mentioned a couple of these, but this did win 4 Academy Awards. It won for best sound, best sound effects editing, best visual effects, and best makeup. And it's very easy to see why it won all of those. It lost two others, cinematography and film editing, and I'm okay with that because really when you kind of look at what this movie achieved, I mean, obviously the story is great and the acting and the characters are very great. Especially, I think Arnold Schwarzenegger is highly underrated in terms of his acting abilities, and a lot of it shows here because, following up on the Terminator, I think he has said like 26 words and that whole film of that, and this he's playing this whole character, and he is he does a really good job of being this machine that also makes you question the way that you think about things and stuff. So it does a very excellent. But the highlight of this, and same with a lot of other James Cameron's work, is this really pushed the envelope on what you could do. It was all people could talk about. It was the buzz of the town when kind of that trailer came out, and you saw Robert Patrick walking through those prison doors. He just went right through it, and at the time, 1991, that was insane. Of course, we see stuff like that all the time now, but this was the first time that it was done, and it blew people away.
Yeah, it absolutely did. I mean, I think watching it now, it does stand the test of time. I mean, even some of the visualizations that now would be solved with CGI, and we wouldn't think anything of it in any other film. We're still blown away by it now, and it was 30 years ago. I mean,
Yep.
I think when the visualizations of it in and of itself stand up, but the story is so much deeper than just, hey, it's a science fiction kind of thriller. There's someone out to get another person. It's so much more about parenting and friendship and where do the robots end and we begin? Because I mean, a big piece of this was that they used these chips, the computer chip and the arm, to further create an army and create a better defense system around the world, so that we wouldn't have to fight anymore, and we'd have a much better defense system. And so even the character of Dyson, who was like, I didn't mean for any of this to happen. I'm a good person, but I'm a cog in a wheel that ends up going incredibly bad. It is interesting because even to the very end, he just wanted to do the right thing. He was just yeah. And so many layers of this.
there's there's a lot of layers, and yeah, this is an action adventure film, but in a lot of ways it is more akin to a horror film. So if you read lists of like the top movie villains of all time, Robert Patrick's T-1000 is a lot of times pretty high up on that list.
Yeah, for
And
sure.
watching it back, the T-1000 is very similar in a lot of ways to like Michael Myers from Halloween, because you can't kill him and it's never going to stop. Like, it's never going to stop running after you. You can't do anything about it. Like you'd mentioned, Michaela, even when he freezes and his like knees and legs are like busting off, like he's still crawling after you, and you think you've killed him, you think you've left him in the dust, but no, because it's just never going to stop chasing you. And Robert Patrick is excellent in this, as everyone else is, I'd mentioned. So the year is 1991. Michaela, we would have been, I don't know, we both would have been 9, I think, when this came out, because I think it came out on July the 3rd. So I didn't see this at the movie theater. This is rated R. I actually, on a side note, I think if this came out today, I don't think it would be rated R. I think it would probably be rated PG-13, because I don't think that it is like so violent. There's some stabby bits, but really, in terms of violence, I don't think it's that much, because it must not have been, because my parents let me see it, not at the movie theater, but later. I'm guessing that my brother and dad probably saw it, and maybe my dad gave like my mom the green light that it was okay, because this was a movie that I had on VHS probably when I was like 12 or 13, and I loved this movie. I watched it over and over and over again, and it very quickly became my second favorite movie of all time. So we're just running through all my favorite movies. But Michaela, do you remember seeing this for the first time?
I do. It was also not in the theater because I was not allowed. Uh, but I do remember being able to watch it with my dad. So he let me watch the first Terminator. And so it was kind of a dual movie night or whatever. So I saw the
Mhm.
first one, rated R, definitely rated R. There's some love in that one. This one is not so much. There's not so much any of that, but it's violent. I think it's interesting that you say that it probably would be PG-13 now. Probably would be, but for whatever reason, my son, who loves watching movies with me,
Mhm.
for the podcast, right? And I love to show him scenes, even if it's a movie that he can't watch. I absolutely was like, "You're not watching this."
Yeah.
I was like, "Absolutely not." But the more I think about it, I mean, you're right. It probably would have. I still think it's not appropriate for a 7-year-old. Let me be clear, but I think you're right. I think it probably would have been a PG-13 because he doesn't kill people very often. Like there's not a lot of people that die, and it's not
Mhm.
super gory. Um, but I do remember the first time I saw this, and I remember just crying and crying at the end of Terminator 2. I was really sad, and I was really terrified of, like, could we have liquid metal things? Could that be a thing that happens? Like 5 years after this, nanotechnology became kind of
Mhm.
a
Mhm.
household word. A lot of people didn't know what it was, but people were talking about it. And I was like, oh my gosh, it's the beginning. It's the beginning of Skynet. We're all going to die. Yeah, no, but I liked it a lot. It's probably my favorite Arnold Schwarzenegger film, of the ones that I've seen that he's
Mhm.
done, for sure. And I haven't seen this in a long time, and so I was really glad, while we were going down your list of favorite films, that we were able to do it this year,
Yeah.
because I have not seen it in a really long time, and I really, it was nice. It was like visiting an old friend. It's really good, and it really does sit up well. So
Yeah, for
yeah.
sure, for sure. And that's 2 weeks in a row where we had kind of a young kid getting taught lessons and a tearful goodbye. Obviously, E.T. and Terminator 2 are much different films, but kind of those same themes still kind of run through it. And I think maybe that's really what makes Terminator 2 special, and maybe why I was so attached to it as a youngster myself. So let us know out there what you remember about Terminator 2. Let us know if you think the T-1000 is a scary villain. Let us know how awesome you think Sarah Connor is, because she is a boss when she's doing pull-ups in her room at the Pescadero mental institution. So let us know all that. Let us know if you make a liquid metal shot, or if you come up with a good variant that I might like better than the coconut rum version. Let us know and send us pictures, because they're sparkly and metally and cool looking. And you can do that on our Instagram and Twitter. It's at Drink the Movies, and on Facebook.com/Drink the Movies. If you want to see the pictures of the ones that we made, get episode recaps, all that kind of fun stuff, you can do that on our website, which is www.drinkthemovies.com. And you're going to want to stay close to the social medias and the website, because we might have something pretty cool in the works here coming up in the next couple of months. So keep an eye for that. That is a teaser trailer, as they call it in the movie industry, Michaela. But while people are they're on their computers, they're checking out all that stuff, what else should they be doing?
You should be leaving us a 5-star review. That's what you should be doing.
Correct.
And let me tell you where to do that. You can do that on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, anywhere where Anchor podcasts are distributed. We have now, I think for the third week in a row, made it to the top 100 for Good Pods.
Mm-hmm.
That is amazing. What is happening? That is awesome. So if you're watching it on Good Pods, thanks so much. Keep doing it. Leaving us a 5-star review really helps us build this community. We get a lot more people that look at it and listen to it, and we really are excited to build this community that bridges us between cocktails and films and all things of that nature. And so we would really appreciate it, because it really helps get Drink the Movies out there.
Yeah, absolutely. But for now, Michaela, I think I'm definitely done with these shots, but I'm not done with Terminator 2. So I'm going to take a quick break, and then I'm going to come back and watch it again, just like I did when I was 12 or 13, because there was never a long time in between watching this film. So I'm going to go do that. You come up with hopefully a less coconutty cocktail for next week, and we'll talk to everyone next time on
Drink
Drink
the
the
Movies.
Movies. Hasta la vista, baby.
I now know why you cry, but it's something I could never do.